Welcome to the Sunday morning meditation service. Daily word for today is honoring the divine presence within. I am refreshed. I find many opportunities to refresh my awareness that God, the divine presence, is within me wherever I am, whatever I am doing. It takes only a moment to find God's presence reflected in the people and animals I encounter and in the natural beauty that surrounds me. We've always had a dog, and if you don't think that the dog that you have is not completely enlightened with love, I mean, you just look at that love that is exuding to you, panting with the tongue hanging out and the eyes wide open. It's like, if you're in a bad mood, just look at your dog. It's amazing. We are so blessed to have such a creature on this planet. So if you don't have an animal in your home, I recommend getting a dog or even a cat. My sister passed on, and I inherited her cat, which was a way to be close to my sister. I never had a cat. And that cat, we just bonded within a day and a half, and it just takes its head against my head, and it just coos and purrs, and it's like, oh my God, the animal world is amazing. We could just be like the animal world. Okay, let's chant. Call and response. Coming home to you. 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 Oh, my beloved, kindness of the heart, breath of life, I bow to you. I bow to you.
Good morning, everyone. At 2 a.m. on Wednesday morning, my dog, who stays with me in the back bedroom, while Norma quite often stays downstairs and sleeps with the cat. They each have their separate place. The dog has the upstairs, the cat has the downstairs. So at 2 a.m. on Wednesday morning, Teton starts barking his head off. And whenever he's barking like that, it's usually because there's a bear on the deck. Now the deck is one big room away. There's a big room after my bedroom and the kitchen, and then off the kitchen we have a deck. So he's barking his head off, and I open the door because I want to take a look at the bear. We had a big bear and two cubs show up a couple weeks ago. And anyway, I open my bedroom door and I see this huge bear in my kitchen with the cub. I don't know if both cubs were there. I only saw the big bear and the cub. And immediately, that's the most dangerous situation you could possibly be involved in. And they're making a racket because they're going through the food, the raisins, the cranberries, the honey. And I know with that racket, Norma's going to be coming upstairs. And those stairs come up 5 feet away from the kitchen. So immediately, I rush to the firebox in my room, open it up, and check the insurance policies to see what I'm going to collect on Norma. Not really. I paused in my doorway, waiting for her to appear on the steps, and said, Norma's a bear in the kitchen. And she runs into the bedroom, and we lock the bedroom door. So, and we let the bears go at it for a while, but I'm deciding this is going to destroy the entire house. So I open the door and I start to really shout at them in a threatening way. And the big bear got it. The big bear looked out, looked at me from the kitchen, and then went out the door back onto the deck, and the cub kind of followed that way. But I kept shouting, and the big mother bear kept looking in from the deck, looking in the door at me as to whether or not I really meant business. Anyway, they finally disappeared. They were on the deck, I believe. And I went around very carefully to the other side, through the kitchen, and then I ran and slammed the door and locked it. It's the first time we've ever left the bolt. Every one of our doors has a deadbolt on it that I purposely installed because we get bears up there. We've had bears 3 times in our house. And so that's why the bolts are there. For some reason, we forgot to bolt the door on Tuesday night, and that's what we wound up with. Anyway, there's lots of reasons to have concern and fear in the world. They seem to be growing now with all the conspiracy theories that are being hatched and spewed out in the general populace, just adding to the fear that's already there in most people about life, the hurricanes, global warming, the coming concerns about the presidential election, which may mean or bring an end to democracy as we know it. Have we ever really known democracy? But we're talking about a clear end to it. And so all the different things that people are ordinarily afraid of, and then the conspiracy theories about what's happening. There's theories that the human population is being diminished purposely by certain means, and people have different stories about how they're doing this, whatever. But I think on the minds of most people recently is the fear of the coronavirus now has a new strain. And the authorities, the medical authorities, and the political authorities are warning everybody to get back to wearing masks. And so that's a great big concern now. And to add to all the different fears that, you see, most human beings, especially in this opulent Western culture, are riddled with fears every day, beset by them, beleaguered by the fears. And it's hard to live your life in a state of peace and equanimity when you have all these different fears that you're dealing with. And I can aptly equate it to a situation that mice were in this particular pet store. About 10 years ago, we had a pet store a few blocks away from here, off of 28th Street, in that small mall that now has some stores and a bagel shop, etc. And the pet store actually sold the ordinary things like, the equipment for cats and dogs and cat food and dog food. And this store also had some tropical fish aquariums. So they sold tropical fish. But in it, they also sold reptiles and snakes. And I go in there to get the special kind of food that we use on the dog we had at that time. And I see the guy in the store go over to the aquarium where there's like 3 aquariums of snakes, and then right next to this one aquarium with the king snake, about a 5-foot snake, this guy goes over with a pair of tongs and reaches into the aquarium next to the snake, which is filled with regular mice. There's about 5 or 6 mice in there. He snags a mouse, lifts up the thing, snags a mouse, and then opens the king snake's aquarium and drops the mouse in. And I'm watching this, and believe me, all the other mice are crowded on the side of the aquarium, away from where they can see this snake. taking out their brother or sister. And I said to the guy, hey, I said, is there any way to move this aquarium somewhere where they don't have to see the snake all the time? He said, well, why? I said, look at them. They're terrified. He said, well, I don't run the place. The manager runs the place. I just work here. I said, I'll give you $20 if we can just take this aquarium and put it up on one of those shelves in the back. And he said, well, I don't know. He said, it's easier to feed the snakes with the aquarium right here. So I equate that with the human dilemma that we have as we are so motivated by fear. And the fear of death that those mice lived in continually is not a fear that we live in continually, but it's there. It's always there. And we're always, cognizant of it because there is so much insane things that create the deaths of humans on our planet. And so we're always wary of that as well. And now, with the coronavirus, has a new strain. Did you ever notice that in the major networks on television, what are the majority of commercials about? The majority of the commercials are about pharmaceutical drugs. And the pharmaceutical industry that creates those commercials is well aware of the one thing they use to sell those drugs. And the one thing they use is fear, so that they can keep this population taking drugs for almost everything and anything. I want to stop here to clarify one thing. I'm going to clarify this now. It's still going to cause ripples of backlash anyway in Unity, and from my perspective, the power of belief is what will determine whether or not you decide to get your vaccines and wear your masks or not. Those that believe that the masks work and the vaccines work, that's fine. There's no resistance to that. Those that don't want to wear masks, don't believe in the vaccines, we're fine with that. Because belief is the ultimate power that's creating the lives we are living. That's Unity's point of view. What you are believing, you are receiving. Not on some distant day in some distant life, but right here, right now, what you are believing is the world that you are receiving. And no two people are living in the same world because each person is living in the world of his or her beliefs. So you'll notice that Unity doesn't take a position on anything. Doesn't take a position on abortion or anything like that. Even though many years ago, I used to take positions on political scenes. I don't do that anymore. I think we've emptied out the church enough. So, we have one thing, the greatest, the pharmaceutical companies are so adept at creating commercials using fear that they literally take the mind of those who are tuning in away from the side effects of so many of these drugs. I mean, so many of these drugs that they're advertising have side effects worse than the very thing they're supposed to be dealing with. And they have this keen way of doing it. You'll always notice at the end of those commercials, there'll always be somebody either singing a pretty song or walking in the sunshine saying, yeah, I use this drug and it's really working for me now. Anyway, I do have a beef with the pharmaceutical companies because I know that their motivation is money. And that's an unfortunate motivation to have, but that's the motivation of the capitalistic Western thinking world. But in any way, or any shape, the one side effect that fear actually has, fear actually removes the brain from experiencing the divine presence of its true nature. That's it. And most of us are not experiencing our true nature, not most of the time, because of whatever is going on in our heads and whatever we're believing in, but that's true. But let me say something else. Life is a process of evolution. You don't have to say, oh, I'm not doing this or I'm not doing that. It doesn't matter, really. Each of us is living in such a way as to be able to reflect upon what we think and the actions we take in reference to what we think. So it is a learning process to tune into what you feel most of the time and what you're thinking that causes you to feel this way or that way. That's the way life is really designed underneath. Of course, that process has been taken away from people by the big pharmaceutical companies and those big other companies that want to get you thinking and fearing a certain way. They want you fearing a certain way. That puts money in their pockets, and that takes care of, all that they have to spend for all those long vacations they take in the tropical islands and things like that. They have no conscience about life. They don't meditate on the majesty and the miracle of just being alive. That doesn't occur in their business. So it's necessary for us to withdraw from the general thinking of the world and the general beliefs that are foisted upon the world through those limited corporations that make money their God. But I am saying to you, there is an evolutionary stage where there will be no hospitals, no pharmacies. There'll be doctors, there'll probably be alternative doctors, and they'll work very carefully to help you when you're beginning to believe something that isn't true. Because, as A Course in Miracles says, watch this with the same hand. Can I have this first PowerPoint? Fear is a symptom of your own deep sense of loss. If when you perceive it in others, you learn to supply the loss, the basic cause of fear is removed. Thereby, you teach yourself that fear does not exist in you. The means for removing it is in yourself, and you have demonstrated this by giving it. Fear and love are the only emotions of which you are capable. One is false, for it was made out of denial, and denial depends on the belief in what is denied for its own existence. By interpreting fear correctly as a positive affirmation of the underlying love it masks, you are undermining its perceived usefulness by rendering it useless. Can we take this back again, please? Why does Helen Schuckman allow this stuff to be channeled through her? Why did she spend 7 years writing this stuff and never receive a penny for it? Just to make us, just to bother us? Fear is a symptom of your own deep sense of loss. If when you perceive it in others, you learn to supply the loss, the basic cause of fear is removed. Thereby you teach yourself that fear does not exist in you. The means for removing it is in yourself. Do you believe that? You have the means for removing fear, and actually in any given situation, allowing there to be a restoration of peace and good feelings to your mind? Do you believe that that's all we're ever doing here? Learning how to do? To become divine emissaries of a living God? The means for removing it is in yourself. And you have demonstrated this by giving it. Fear and love are the only emotions of which you are capable. One is false, for it was made out of denial, and denial depends on the belief in what is denied for its own existence. By interpreting fear correctly as a positive affirmation of the underlying love it masks, you are undermining its perceived usefulness by rendering it useless. So the call is clear again. We are made in the image and likeness of God. Expressing that image and likeness is the process of what we are called to do. And we don't leap into these states of divine awareness, peace, and love. It takes practice. It takes practice in being conscious when negative emotions are rising, negative thoughts are arising. Instead of allowing them to arise and then reacting to them in a very negative way, you simply learn to pause and change the emotion, change the thought. And that's how we become divine in expression. We are divine in origin. There is at the core of our being the living light of God. But whether or not we ever express that in form, in life, is a matter of our choosing and whether or not we take up the task of becoming divine beings. But I say, and I believe this is so because time is misunderstood as well, there are already levels where there are no hospitals. And don't think that life ends and then there's just this ethereal stuff, that there's no more physical existences. The world itself is not a globe. It's a collective belief that we live in. That's all it is. There are dimensions, levels of awareness that transcend the centuries of thinking that have taken us out of the idea that the world is flat, although we still have some people arguing that, and that the world is a globe, it's round, and it's, you know, and we have these geographical locations, and we have these particular things taking place. Eckhart Tolle is trying to tell us that it's the collective thinking of humanity that creates the mayhem and madness and wars and prejudice and hate. And that's it. There's no God that created it that way. God is love. God is divine love. We are made in the image of divine love. Can we have this next PowerPoint, please, from Eckhart Tolle? From his book, Stillness Speaks, Eckhart Tolle, on page 57, paragraph 2, when you know who you truly are, there is an abiding, alive sense of peace. You could call it joy because that's what joy is. Vibrantly alive peace. It is the joy of knowing yourself as the very life essence before life takes on form. That is the joy of being who you truly are. When you know who you truly are, and that comes through the practice, spiritual practice, but specifically meditation as well. So what happens to you till you get to this place? The master of life and death called his disciples to be in the world, but not of the world. To enter that state of being, you don't destroy the physical body, you don't destroy the physical life, you transcend the thinking of it, recognizing that we are more than a bunch of separate physical bodies and personalities. This is what we will become. When you know who you truly are, there is an abiding, alive sense of peace. You could call it joy because that's what joy is. Vibrantly alive peace. It is the joy of knowing yourself as the very life essence before life takes on form. That is the joy of being who you truly are. Being in the world, but not of it, not tossed to and fro by every changing tide of circumstances. You should know that I did pay the guy in that pet store that worked there, I paid him $20 to move the aquarium. We moved it together. And he said, I don't know if this is going to fly. I said, look, give it a shot. Maybe your boss or your manager will never recognize it. Does he ever feed the snakes himself? He said, no, it's the day job for the person that works here. I feed the snakes. He said, well, maybe he'll never even notice that the aquarium was moved. And so we moved it to a shelf higher up. Probably the first moment that guy walks into the pet shop. Where are my mice? What have you done with the mice? I put them there purposely to scare the hell out of them. What did you do? Anyway. The human dilemma. Is there, by virtue of the necessity for life, to teach us how to live? We are in the process of learning how to live effectively, peacefully, joyfully. And any person can do this. You can't believe it. We don't want to be trying to say it has to do with the world and they're all crazy and that's why my life isn't what it is. But the point is, anyone can transcend the thinking of the world and enter into that level of wisdom, insight, and peace, which is the knowledge of knowing that we are all one. In that awareness that we are all one, look what happens, immediately what happens. You don't need a dogma to say, in order for you to go to heaven on some distant day, you need to be forgiving, considerate, caring, helpful, serving. You don't need that. When you actually recognize that we are all one in this divine intelligence and life, we automatically release the discriminations, the negative thoughts we hold or that come to mind. We automatically release them because we know that everybody we're looking at is in the same place as we are. They're being called higher. They're being called to honor their divine nature. And so they may not be there. They may be making more problems for themselves, which most people who are unenlightened do. Making more problems for others, which people who aren't enlightened do. But we get to that place where with the practice of the presence of God, which means everything I look upon is sacred and worthy of forgiveness. We don't need a dogma. There's no distant heaven to get to. The master of life's heaven's in your midst. It's all around you, but you don't see it. And you don't see it because everything you look upon is filtered through your collection of beliefs. She's here. The bears never got her. And by the way, just so you know, because the stuff that takes place here gets bandied about in rumors. Norma and I only had life insurance for the time that our kids were growing up, just in case anything happened to us. But right after that, we gave it up. We don't have life insurance now. Our kids are all working, doing very well on their own. We don't have, any huge legacy that we're going to hand off to them. Our house in the mountains is worth something. But we have no fears about that kind of stuff. Because we got started with the truth a long time ago. This is what's left for us to know. We go from the ignorance of knowing reality to knowing reality. And the bridge between the two is faith. On faith, we begin to take to task our own awareness. We don't let the world dictate to us all the time about what we should be concerned about, fearing, doing, buying. We don't go there. We choose peace. We choose insight. We choose to know that God is real and life is eternal. For many people, it's body after body after body in reincarnation. For others, it moves beyond that, as Casey said, and someday we'll get back to teaching the Casey stuff. Right now, we're going to meditate together, which is one of the principal practices to bring about this transformation in the mind. Because even when you don't think anything is happening, when we sit still and rest the thinking of the mind, we don't give into it, we just rest from it. We don't try to push it out of existence. We simply sit in stillness and use a mantra or a breathing exercise. Or we just begin to realize, we watch the thoughts as they pass by. The way we might watch a colorless, uninteresting, soundless parade. It's just a colorless, uninteresting parade of thoughts generated by the motivated fear of the world. And as we watch them pass by, we're choosing peace, breathing peace, coming into the present moment, coming here, knowing everything I look upon, everything I see is only God looking back at me. Everything I look upon, everything I see is only God in the illusions of bodies looking back at me. Everything I look upon, everything I see is only God waiting for me to rise and declare life is love. as we go forth from this meditation to those places we occupy in time and space. Let us go forth with a greater determination to be awake in the process of living. And for this opportunity in every moment to practice peace, mystical peace, we give thanks. To this we say, Amen. We will take an offering for unity now. While we're getting ready to do this, let me just say that you people online can scroll down to a place that says donate. You can donate in many different ways. You have these different ways you can donate. We will have our group meeting in the back on the dance floor in Fellowship Hall. So you can get something from the table of refreshments and sit down if you want to discuss anything having to do with this talk. I still have people coming up and asking questions. If you want to put an end to questions, spiritual questions, buy my book, Escape to Another Reality. And now let us take into our hands this gift we'd like to make to Unity of Boulder. And let's bless it with this offering prayer. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive, because I give. And so it is. Join me now, please. We dedicate this tithe to the will and the work of the Spirit of truth, and to the victory of the Spirit of truth.
I just want to say I've been reading Jack's book. I help type a lot of it, but I don't retain. I kind of like let things go. I'm like a new person every day. He remembers everything was past. When I met this man, he was definitely brought up in dire poverty, uneducated people. He had nothing going for him. The story...
I was still good looking.
The story was... story is true, and it's unbelievable. Somebody that came from his background. You talk about living other lives. This book tells you live other lives. And how he got into who he is now is unbelievable. On my dad's deathbed, he said, "Jack, you're a bad guy, aren't you? Did I kill my dad by getting with this guy?" You know, and he says, "I was, but I'm not anymore." And then my dad passed on. It was like when I met him, a voice said to me, this is him, and I was in show business to be a star. I was not in looking for dating and nothing. And it's like from then on, whenever it got bad, I got this inner guidance, stay, you're going to do great work together. I mean, it is an unbelievable story. I don't think we've ever done a movie like this. And so we're not trying to make money from it. You should just read this story and know that there is something else going on. Something else is going on. What happened to him and what happened to me coming to this person who turned out, together we grew. And I think it had to be with us together to get on that spiritual path that we've done lifetimes on. So it is an amazing book, and he's an incredible writer, and what a remembrance of every little detail. And he ate awful food. I mean, he was growing up with nothing. How did he get a brain? It's unreal. All right, enough said.
All right, so
It's not the money, it's just the message that's in the book.
to all of you, have a beautiful day. Those of you who want to stay, I'll see you in Fellowship Hall. Okay.